Let me see if the kitchen is open. The handle rattled and shook. Locked. Let me see if I can open it. The dagger came through the crack and struggled against the crossbar, making Leah skip back with shock. The crossbar is too heavy. Sorry, lad. Looks like you will be bleeding to death here. Well, I suppose I could knock. Leah clenched her hands around a skillet handle, wondering if she should open the doors. A firm pounding startled her. For the love of life, is anyone there? I have a wounded man with me. Is anyone there? That decided her. Leah set the pan on the table, lifted the crossbar, and pulled open the door, and fell over when a man stumbled inside. Chapter 2. Night Maston. Welcome to part 2 of the door build for the Pasqua's kitchen. And I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be including metric measurements by special request. And from now on, actually, I'm going to start using metric, including the metric system. So anyway, I've got this piece of dowel here, and I'm using my 1/2 inch scale rule, and you can see here that this piece here is actually 3 inches in real life, and it is by 6 inches in real life. That's the scale size there. And basically, it's like a 2 by 6. Basically, is the size of the piece of wood for the crossbar of the doors. And this piece of metal here, which is a 1/2 inch, it's a galvanized sheet metal, 1/2 inch wide, is what I'm going to be using to make the catches for the crossbar. And when I'm going to cut it in half lengthwise, across there to make it a 1/4 inch wide, and I'm going to make each one 5/8 of an inch long, or 16 millimeters long. And the reason I chose that size is if you take, as I'll show here in just a second, it's going to go around 3 sides of that dowel. So I'll have a 1/4 inch there, 1/8 of an inch there, and a 1/4 of an inch there, which is 5/8 of an inch. So that's why I made it 5/8 of an inch long. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm marking on my mat with a marker a couple of marks, so I know where to make marks on the metal. I've got a 1/4 of an inch from the line there, and then another 1/4 inch on that side there. And for some reason, I make a second set of marks, which I don't know why I did that. I didn't really need to. But anyway, so like I say, 1/4 inch there and a 1/4 inch there. I actually only needed to make one mark. But what I'm going to do, the marker doesn't write too well on the metal, so I'll use a marking knife that I have for my wood, but I rather use it for the wood work that I do. So what I'll do is I'll line up the right side there with the 1/4 inch mark. Then I'll take my marking knife there and scratch a line across there down the grid mark on the mat, making it a 1/4 inch mark there. And then what I'll do is I'll move it over to the other 1/4 inch mark there and score on the same line, making a 1/4 inch mark from there, leaving 1/8 of an inch in between. It's so hard to hold that little piece of metal. Anyway, you can see the 2 marks there. There's a 1/4 inch on the right, 1/4 inch on the left, and then 1/8 of an inch in between, which I verify that way, which I was a little off on my cutting, but it's close enough. Now what I'll do is I've got a pair of flat nose pliers and I'll use them as a metal bending brake, and I'll line the edge of the pliers with the line and then bend it 90 degrees like that. Then I'll turn around and do the other side, and that way I've got my two bends for the catch. I've already done one. This is the second one that I'm doing here. And I'll actually end up making 4, which I don't make them all on here, just the one. And they'll sit on the door there. Well, approximately there. And there's the one that I made before. And then the piece of wood, I'm just seeing how well it fits, which I'll end up obviously cutting that piece of wood to length. So there you can see the 4 that I've made. I'm just going to line up the measuring how long I'm going to make the crossbar here. It's not going to go across the entire door, but most of the way, and it ends up being about 3 inches or 76 millimeters long. And my using that thin copper, the hinges got a little bent from moving them around. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off that piece of wood so it's easier to work with. And I just use one of my wood chisels where I'm on the mark. And I was going to try and push it down, but it was a little bit tougher and I didn't want to wreck the wood, so I just took a little hammer and pounded it through. So now I'll use that piece of wood to make a mark where I want the crossbar to sit, which is just underneath the hinges. And that'll be where the top of those catches sit, which I probably should have done it on the underneath side, but to line it up better, but that's okay. It still works out. You'll see. So those 4 will sit 2 on each door, of course. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this black patina here. It's a metal patina to color those catches. I also stained with the same marker that I used for the doors. I stained the crossbar as well. And now what I'm going to do is mix up some JB weld again. And oh, yeah, that's right. We got to line up where they're going to go. Making sure that they fit, which they do. I knew they would. So now I'm taping those so that they don't move. And going to mix up a little bit of JB weld. And as always, I mix up way too much. but it kept pouring out, so I just ended up using it up. Mix it really well with a toothpick, spread it on the back of each one, and place it on the line. You got about four or 5 minutes of working time with the quick set JB Weld, which is good, and it sets permanently in about 20 minutes. And that's the crossbars. I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup. Making sure they're all straight and clean for the most part. Now what I'm doing is, this is my vise, and that's a piece of music wire, or music wire. It's really, really stiff and real springy. And I'm got a handle for an X-Acto knife that I'm going to bend this around. And being that it's a very springy steel, it tends to want to spring back to where it was normally. So you got to over bend it basically to make it work. And so very, very difficult to do for me. I don't have very much strength in my hands. So I end up using a pair of pliers, my same flat nose pliers that I had before, to hold the one end while I twist around. And I should have done it a few more times so that I would have had a consistent size, because I need two of these. These are going to be the handles for the doors. They got twisted up a little bit and overlapped, which it's alright, because I'm going to end up cutting it anyway. So now what I'm going to do is I'll take my heavy duty wire cutters and just cut off the ends of it. And then I'll cut approximately at the same spot on the other side of the loop, so that I've got a whole loop there. Just trying to flatten it out a little bit, straighten it up a little bit. And there's the loop. Now what I'm trying to do is find a small, I have some antique copper seed beads that I'm going to use to hold the handle. Just like that. And I'm just closing up the vise so that I've got more flat area to work on. And I'm just basically going to spread those apart a little bit, put the seed bead on, and close it back up. Just like that. So there's two of them that I made. I made one before I made the one that I just showed you, but I used a different size X-Acto blade handle to make it, and so that's why there are two different sizes here. So I'm just right here debating on how low I want the handle to be, which that's about where it ends up being right there. And with the two in place, I kind of just debated on which size I ended up wanting to use. I don't know. I think that one's too small. Debating. Yeah, let's get rid of that one. We'll save that for another project. So here I am being a little bit more conservative with my JB weld. And since I only need to do one of these, actually I could have used all of that for both of them, but I need to make another one, which I'll do off camera. So anyway, that is how I made the doors to the kitchen. Just finishing up putting that handle on right there, and it's not going to move. It'll stay permanently in place. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. I've got a little thing that I made up here for fun at the end to show how they ended up turning out. So these will get installed later on once I get the walls built and whatnot. But this is going to be a fun little project, like I keep saying. Anyway, have a better day, as I always say.